It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors, by Wallowa County, nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence, and by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
Happy Easter, everyone. We need to add a new sponsor to that list, too. It's Sportsman's Warehouse. They operate over 60 great sporting goods stores across the United States and have the largest retail footprint of any sporting goods chain in the Northwest, with 23 stores full of fishing, hunting, camping, and outdoors gear. Be sure to catch our weekly trivia question during our show, where we'll ask you a question, and if you get it right, you'll have a chance to win a gift card for $25 you can use at any Sportsman's Warehouse store. This week on the show, we are sticking around Spokane, Washington to bring you more audio from the recent Backcountry Hunter and Anglers Rendezvous. We'll start off with a fascinating story shared during the rendezvous by Bill Hanlon. Bill's a retired school teacher and hardcore Dall sheep hunter who discovered the 500-year-old remains of a mummified man emerging from the glacial ice of northern British Columbia during a multi-day hunting expedition. And that's just the beginning of what would become a 6-year story about this man and Bill's ties to him hundreds of years later. If you are hunting or recreating in the backcountry, you need a shelter, and it's not easy to pack in a canvas wall tent. That's where Seek Outside comes in. Angie Tim will join us from the crowded floor of the rendezvous to tell you about her unique, lightweight teepees that are perfect for your next adventure. While we're in Spokane, we get to talk to the folks at the Union Gospel Mission. It turns out they run a summer camp for disadvantaged kids on 125 acres along the Spokane River, where they take inner-city children from 8 to 12 years of age and introduce them to the outdoors. It's a wonderful thing to do, but they need your help to do it. We'll tell you more about how you can help during this broadcast. We've got warm water fishing on tap for you, too. Max Lure Pro Guide Keith Jensen with Big Wally's Guide Service breaks down walleye fishing on Banks Lake in eastern Washington. We've got an updated bass and walleye report from Mardon Resort at Potholes Reservoir, and Captain Forrest Fathrup with Walleye Hunter Outfitters will share where you can target walleye and northern pike this spring in the great state of Montana. We'll wrap up things with some upcoming events, which includes a chat with Peter Floor, who's going to tell you about a coastal conservation banquet coming up April 11th in Wenatchee, Washington. But first, something had hundreds of snow geese falling out of the sky dead in eastern Idaho last month. David Sparks investigates and tells us more about it on this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight, brought to you every week by fishing guide Nate Luther, who wants you to hook into some Snake River smallmouth bass and trophy-sized sturgeon this spring and summer. Go to the Nate Luther Guided Fishing Facebook page to find out more.
Cholera and snow geese, David Sparks with Sportsman Spotlight. A pretty alarming event as Idaho Fish and Wildlife officials discovered the carcasses of 2,000 snow geese that had migrated from the south. Fish and Game's Greg Lusinski.
Fish and Game biologists collected close to 2,000 carcasses of snow geese infected with avian cholera during their wintering stay down south and died as they were migrating north.
Is avian cholera extremely contagious?
Luckily, it is not. It's actually all around us most of the time, but it doesn't reach critical outbreak stages. In this case, this flock was in a place where conditions were just right so that they were infected, and as they were migrating north, the incubation period was such that as they reached Idaho, they saw the open water of Market Lake and Mud Lake, and when they tried to stop, that was their final stop.
Do we have to be concerned about the cholera reaching out to other wild birds?
Cholera can be spread through the consumption of the carcass or through maggots later on, and that's why Fish and Game made a massive effort this last weekend to collect all the carcasses possible so that, first of all, raptors and other birds that would eat the meat could not get at the infected meat, and then any carcasses that would be left that would be infected by flies that would have maggots that would carry the cholera would be collected as well so that migrating waterfowl would not eat them. So that was our number one concern, was trying to isolate the problem.
Could the problem occur in other states? If birds were in the same place as Idaho geese, absolutely.
This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
In the depth of Hell's Canyon, a monster sturgeon swims within the waters of the Snake River. He measures anywhere from 6 to 11 feet long and weighs out not in pounds, but in hundreds of pounds. You can fight him and you can catch him, but you'll need help to do so. That's where Nate Luther comes in. He's been navigating the rapids within Hell's Canyon for years and knows how to catch these sturgeon like no other man on the water. Find out more by going to Nate Luther's Facebook page at Nate Luther's Guide Service or give Nate a call at 208-503-9204. That's 208-503-9204 for Nate Luther's Guide Service.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Weimar stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We've got an incredible story to share with you today. We're talking to Bill Hanlon. He is the chairman for the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers in British Columbia. He also is a former high school teacher, and in 1999, he went hunting for Dall sheep, but he found not just a beautiful ram, he found something absolutely incredible. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, John.
Bill, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about this hunt for Dall sheep that turned into the discovery of a 500-year-old man. How did this start off?
Dall sheep hunting in British Columbia is a limited entry hunt, so you have to apply and basically win a lottery to get the opportunity to hunt Dall sheep. There are only 2 Dall sheep populations in the province, and one is in the Tatshenshini-Alsac Provincial Park. It is in the very northwest corner of British Columbia. British Columbia is a huge province, so it's a very rugged, wild environment. The Tatshenshini-Alsac Provincial Park is part of the largest protected area in the world. It's an internationally protected area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, combined with the Wrangell St. Elias and Glacier Bay National Parks in Alaska, the Kluane National Park in Yukon, and the Tatshenshini-Alsac in British Columbia. It's 21 million acres.
So you're up here, you're trekking in. How many days did you have to trek in, and how many kilometers did you cover before you got to the place where you made this discovery?
We had enough provisions for 10 days of backpack hunting, and we were approximately 55 kilometers into the backcountry, came upon an ice patch. We were on the margin of a glacier, and we noticed something out of the ordinary, something that didn't belong there to our eyes.
And what was that exactly?
We started picking up sticks, and I mean, it's a rock and ice environment, and so we noticed, and the first thing we said was to my hunting partners, "Hey Mike, hey Warren, we're not the first people that have been here. Look at this, here's a stick." And it stuck out of the ordinary. We noticed it right away. A couple of minutes later, Mike picked up another stick and said, "Hey Bill, they just fit together, that one you had. Yeah, there's something coincidental about these." Walked a little further, and he picked up a third stick, and then it kind of clicked in his mind that these aren't sticks, these are artifacts. We're starting to find something here that's unique. Warren, in the meantime, our third hunting partner, was walking along this wall of ice, and about 20 feet above him, he's looking through his binoculars, and he says to Mike and I, "Hey guys, I think I found the poor fella who lost all this stuff." And he was looking up on the edge of the ice, and he noticed a smudge. So I climbed up on the glacier, and looking down on, it looked like a hide of some sort, but it actually turned out to be a gopher skin robe. And then I looked around a little further, and there's actually human remains were just emerging from the glacier, and the man's pelvis was just emerging from the ice. And there was a few other artifacts. There was a small tool, like a knife in a sheath. There was a woven spruce root hat. There was a few other things that were there, so his belongings were there as well.
So you find all of this, and you found something that's, well, you don't know actually at this point whether it's ancient or not so ancient. All you know at this point is you found a body. What happens next?
We were a couple days hike still from the highway. We still had another day or so to hunt, so we had a lot of these questions weighing heavily on our minds. We didn't know what it was. We knew that it was old, but we were definitely not any experts in the matter. But we didn't disturb it. We just we took a few pictures. We brought out a few of the artifacts that we knew we couldn't damage. We put them in Ziploc bags and made sure that they were packed safely and carefully. And then it took us a couple days to get to the truck. And then once we got back to the truck, we were able to get into Whitehorse and report our findings to the authorities, more for our own curiosity to say, hey, we found this, and what's it mean?
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Bill Hanlon. He's a man who in 1999 went hunting for Dall sheep and instead found the remains of a 500-year-old man. So, Bill, you turned this in, and I understand the First Nations and government authorities went back to this glacier and they basically recovered what you found in terms of the body.
Yes, that's right. They recovered the complete human remains. There was a few pieces missing. His right arm, his lower right leg, and his head was missing, but they exhumed his upper torso. It had been, separated by the glacier shifting over the centuries, so it was in pieces, but they were able to recover the majority of his remains, and it's the oldest organically preserved human remains ever found in the Americas. One of only 2 glacier mummies ever found in the world. The other being the more popular Ötzi, which is the Austrian-Italian Iceman found in the Alps, I think in the early 90s, 10 years prior to Quaridon Sinchi.
Tell me a little bit more about this man that was found. And I guess we'll start off with what he had. What sort of tools did he have? What was he wearing? And why was this so impressive?
Once the scientists had an opportunity to do a DNA study to identify that he was actually a First Nations, he was an Aboriginal, they were able to curate his artifacts and identify what his artifacts were and what he was carrying. And it turned out to be his Arctic ground squirrel robe. It was 95 Arctic ground squirrels sewn together into a robe. It was sewn together with mountain goat and blue whale sinew. It had moose hide patches. It had a moose hide collar. It was the high-tech clothing of the day. That's what they were known to wear and carry with them for their clothing, for their sleeping, etc.
And when we're talking back in the day, we're literally talking the 1400s before Christopher Columbus came here.
Definitely before any contact with European culture. So he was uncontaminated by modern culture as you could be, living totally off the land. Everything he was carrying was made by him or somebody that loved him or that was in his community. He was carrying a 13-foot salmon gaffing tool. All those sticks we had been picking up, all joined together eventually to become a 13-foot salmon gaffing tool. A woven spruce root hat. He had a man tool, which was called. It came out of a beaver hide sheath. It had a little microchip of metal, and there was only 2 sources of metal in those days. It was either meteoric or it floated ashore like a nail in a board from Asia.
Fascinating stuff. So the head wasn't found. The First Nations basically, after examining the remains, along with government officials after a year, they basically cremated what they had and they put it back near the glacier again. But I understand you went back to the glacier. When did that happen, and what did you find the second time you went back for another Dall sheep hunt?
Well, in 1999 was the original discovery. Between 1999 and 2003, there was a lot of activity in that area with First Nations research, scientific research. They exhumed the body, been going back looking for other artifacts and seeing what was melting out of this rapidly melting ice patch. And we wanted to go back and hunt again, but again, being limited entry hunting, we weren't sure how many years it was going to take us to draw a tag, so we applied, and lo and behold, we draw right away. We draw in 2003. So a lot of this, the science had been going on. It had kind of quieted down. Scientists had gone their ways to do their research, and we wanted to go back and pay our last respects. They had returned Quaridon Sinchi's ashes to the same glacier that they removed him from. So we wanted to say our last respects and continue hunting. We were just getting into the best of the best sheep habitat, the wildest country, and so we wanted to do that.
So you get back to the glacier, and what do you find this time?
So we're basically at the same point where we started picking up sticks. 20 feet of ice had melted over the past 4 years. The climate had really warmed up there. We were experiencing warm summer after warm summer. And we were walking along the margin of the glacier, what was left of it. I kind of walked up on this berm of ice and I said, "Hey, Mike, there's the head." And 4 years later, the same 2 hunters, 55 kilometers in from nowhere, discover the missing remains of the discovery we made 4 years prior.
So you reported this, the head is recovered, this is also examined, and over the course of a 10-year period, government officials and First Nations are able to determine a lot about this young man whose body you found. I mean, what's the basics of what was learned about him?
I call it CSI Tachinshini. because the science that was utilized to research his artifacts, his remains, his molecular structure, his stomach contents, his pollen dating of the pollen on his clothing, it indicated that he was on that glacier in late August, that he was traveling from the coast inland, not vice versa. He was a man of status. He was wearing the contemporary clothing and gear of the day. He was either, they don't know why he was traveling there. He was hunting, that's my theory. He was traveling between communities. He was on a trade route. They're still speculating on why he was there. The speculation on why he perished was he got caught in a late season storm. There was zero pre-death trauma, zero post-mortem decay. He was buried and frozen immediately. They've determined him to be a 5'7" tall man between 18 and 22 in perfect health, 18-inch long black hair, no braids, traveling on those glaciers in bare feet. And they determined him to be a Tlingit Indian through a community DNA study where they found 17 living descendants of him 20 generations later.
And I understand you got to shake the hands of some of those descendants.
I got to shake the hands of some of his direct descendants, and we had the spine tingling occur when we made the discovery, and it occurred again when we were shaking hands with his relatives.
Incredible story. That's Bill Hanlon from Sparwood, British Columbia, sharing what a hunter sometimes finds when he goes hunting in the backcountry. Bill, thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, John.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us this week is Max Lure Pro Guide Keith Jensen, owner of Big Wally's Guide Service. Keith, you fish Banks Lake in eastern Washington, April, May, walleye fishing time. Tell me about this fishery.
Yeah, this last couple of years, the fishery has been fantastic. And April and May are really the peak times there on Banks Lake for walleye. These fish, but come April, May, have now gone out of their deep winter haunts and are now spread out. Usually the spawn is over. And the nice thing is Banks Lake being 26 miles long, you'll get them from the south end to the north end in April and May versus earlier in the year where they're concentrated just around Steamboat Rock. So the lake ends up fishing big, which is really nice. Guys can spread out.
One thing about Banks Lake in the spring is how shallow these walleye are. How shallow are you fishing? I think people are going to be very surprised about this.
Yeah, come especially mid-April all the way through May, we're getting walleye as shallow as 4, 5, 6 feet deep. Look for those shallow bays like the Devil's Punch Bowl, Poplar Bay. Get into those shallow weeds. The weed growth isn't quite up too high, so you can fish in those areas. But yeah, fishing anywhere from 5 out to 15 feet in April, May is often overlooked.
Last but not least, what are you using to get these fish in the boat?
Max Lures this year came out with a brand new walleye rig. It's called the Max Lure Spindrift Walleye Rig, and it is flat out putting the fish in the boat. That Spindrift hook, coupled with the Smile Blade, gives fantastic action. That Spindrift is similar to the Slow Death hook. It's got that curvature to the hook, and it's just adding a lot of action, and these fish haven't seen it, obviously, because they are just flat out chowing it down.
There you go, folks. The Spindrift Walleye Lure from Max Lure Company. Troll it behind a bottom bouncer up at Banks Lake in the shallow water. You're going to get in some fish this spring. If you want to find out more about booking a trip with Keith Jensen, go to his website. It's bigwallysguideservice.com. That's bigwallysguideservice.com. And that wraps up another Max Minute from Max Lure Company.
Shiloh Inn's Affordable Excellence. Welcome to Shiloh Inn's 4-star accommodations at 2-star affordable prices. I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inn's. I personally invite you to enjoy Shiloh Inn's deluxe smoke-free suites, then relax and enjoy our spacious pools and spas with steam and sauna rooms and fully equipped fitness centers. And Shiloh's 4-star treatment is even more affordable with more free amenities than most other hotel chains, like free high-speed internet to a free continental delicious breakfast or full hot breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. Even the kids stay free. And smoke-free Shiloh Inns are all dog-friendly. That's what we mean by 4-star accommodations at 2-star affordable prices. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we've got a product review. We're talking to Angie Tim. She's here at the Backcountry Hunter and Anglers National Rendezvous, and she's got a big tent set up here in the conference area. You are the co-owner of Seek Outside, and you make these tents, and they are very, very different than anything I've seen before. It looks like a big nylon teepee.
It is a nylon teepee.
Tell me more about this. It looks really lightweight. Looks like it's great for hunters. How did you come up with the concept for this?
My husband likes to take walks in the woods, and he came home one day and said, we should make a teepee. And I said, that's a terrible idea. So I took my Kenmore sewing machine and made him a witch's hat, and that was not acceptable. So we just kept playing with design, function, features, and pretty soon, here we are, 5 years later, making teepees we sell all around the world.
This is really interesting to me. Again, it looks like a teepee, but it's incredibly lightweight, including the center pole. How much does this whole contraption weigh, and how big is it exactly?
This is a 12-man teepee, and it weighs about 11 and a half pounds without screen doors. Very lightweight and compact, very easy to transport in the backcountry. Probably 90% of our customers are backpack hunters.
So I like this because this is kind of made for the group of guys or the group of men and women who head into the backcountry and go camping. Instead of carrying a whole bunch of dome tents, or trying to get a wall tent in on horseback, you can just go ahead and carry this in. It's only 12 pounds. That's incredible.
It is incredible, and we see a lot of people being able to go places where they couldn't go before, or where they needed horses, or they were taking a big pack line in. This allows you to throw it in your backpack, split it up between your friends, and really get back there and do all the things that you love in the backcountry without all the burden of horses and pack animals.
Gotta ask, it's so lightweight. How well does it stand up to the elements? How well does it stand up to the wind?
Well, this is a 12-man teepee that we're standing in, and we've had this teepee out in 75-mile-an-hour winds where trees are falling down. It's the design. It's round, and round just beats it every single time. Wind can't catch anything. It just goes around a tent, and they're very, very wonderful in horrible weather.
One thing I notice about this teepee, there's no nylon floor. Is that sold separately, or is it just you're on your own for that in terms of just bring a tarp?
A lot of people bring a tarp, or they don't use anything at all. Some people are still using their horses and taking in cots, or this is their base camp. And we do have smaller tents that you can get for your high camps. And it's nice to not have a floor. You can walk in with your boots on. You don't have to worry about getting the floor messy. It's just what it is.
Well, and especially like you said, especially if you have cots, and folks, when you get to my age, you like cots, this is absolutely perfect. So you said you have smaller sizes. This is the 12-man version. What are the other man versions?
We have a 2-man, which is our Beyond Timberline 2. We have a modular unit we call a little bug out. It's a whole system that's modular. You can take different pieces out and make different tents out of it. Then we have a 4, 6, 8, of course the 12, and we also make a 24-man teepee.
Oh my gosh, you get the whole tribe in there.
The whole tribe for sure. We have a lot of guys using it as like a big...
This would be like the cook tent. This would be like the place to socialize.
Yes, definitely. A lot of river rafters take it. They use their oars as the center pole. It's just really easy to set up and very spacious.
One other thing we need to talk about here, you got this really lightweight stove that looks like it's perfect for this, and I noticed that you've got a place to go ahead and put that stovepipe through too.
Yes, a heated shelter is a game changer in the backcountry. You can dry out your gear, you stay warm, you can cook on it. It's a very versatile piece of equipment for your tents.
So the name of the company, again, folks, is Seek Outside. Where can people find out more about these tents, and are there any stores that sell them?
We do have a store that carries some of our smaller shelters and backpacks in Helena, Montana at Capital Sports. We have a couple of places overseas that also carry our things. And, of course, Seek seekoutside.com, or give us a call anytime, 970-239-1895.
That's seekoutside.com. They're based in Grand Junction, Colorado, and they make some really cool teepees that you're going to love for your next backcountry adventure. Angie, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we've got a favor to ask. We're talking to Dave Wall. He's the director of the Union Gospel Mission in Spokane. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, great, you want us to donate money to help the homeless. Well, that's a great thing to do, but that's not what we're talking about today. Nope, we are talking about donating to the Union Gospel Mission Camp. This is really unique. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, John, we have an incredible opportunity each summer to send about 500 kids to our summer camp. A guy gave us 125 acres of property on the Spokane River about 15 years ago with the contingency that we would use it to help send disadvantaged kids to summer camp.
So tell me about this summer camp. Are there any facilities there, and what happens at summer camp for these kids?
Yeah, it's a beautiful retreat-type center on 125 acres right on the Spokane River, like I said. And these kids are taken out of the city from pretty disadvantaged homes and given a chance to experience the outdoors for a week during the summer when they would normally be just maybe hanging out, getting into trouble. And here they have an opportunity to be with some great counselors and some great people doing some very fun things.
So what are some of the things that these kids do?
Yeah, there's so many fun things for the kids to do, John. They get to go hiking, they get to go do some fishing, tubing, archery, just things that they wouldn't get to do normally in the city.
So what's the age range that you're servicing here when it comes to these kids?
Yeah, it's a pretty young group of kids. It's ages 8 to 12. So we have the younger kids who maybe have never had a chance to even be out in the outdoors before.
So by definition, like you said, these are disadvantaged kids. These are kids that come from, a lot of cases, broken homes or homes where there's not a lot of money, where these kids would normally have an opportunity like this. So how can we help get these kids to camp? How much does it cost?
Well, the Union Gospel Mission can contain the cost pretty well because we have a lot of donations coming our way, and the property was given to us. So a normal kid going to camp would normally pay about $300 for a week at camp. Our cost is only $89 to send a kid for a week of camp.
That is fantastic. $89 to send a kid between 8 to 12 to camp for a week. Now, obviously, all meals are included. I mean, all they have to bring basically is a sleeping bag, and that's it?
They don't even have to bring a sleeping bag. A lot of kids don't even have that. Some kids just bring a blanket, but we provide free sleeping bags and everything they need for an awesome week.
All right, so here's the ask, folks, because, again, $89 isn't much, but it's still too much for a lot of the families that have these kids. So how can our listeners help you send these kids to camp?
Well, 1 week is $89, so you can just go to the uniongospelmission.org website, look us up, and there's a place to give on there. And if you'd like to send a kid for a week, you just get out your credit card and do it right online, or you can mail us a check, or you can even do a partial scholarship for something that you feel is maybe more affordable for your budget.
All right, well, folks, I'm going to issue a challenge here. I'm going to go ahead and send one of these kids to camp, and I hope you will help me do the same thing. The website, again, uniongospelmission.org. That's uniongospelmission.org. Go ahead and join me so we can send some of these kids to camp in the Spokane area. I think it's great what you're doing, Dave. Thanks so much, and God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, John, and thank you, too, for those of you who will support a kid to camp this summer.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a Leupold rifle scope. Why? Well, because Leupold is America's optical authority. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a Leupold scope on my rifle. And next time, I'm not going to miss.
Leupold Rifle Scopes. Check out the whole line at leupold.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
From the Columbia River to Puget Sound, the Coastal Conservation Association in the Pacific Northwest works to conserve the fish we love. To find out more, go to ccapnw.org.
Nate Luther wants to take you fishing for monster sturgeon on the Snake River and Hell's Canyon. If you're looking for a fishing adventure, this one is hard to beat. Find out more by going to Nate's Facebook page at Nate Luther's Guide Service or give Nate a call at 208-503-9204. That's 208-503-9204 for Nate Luther's Guide Service. Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir, where the unseasonably warm spring has brought on the bass bite. The largemouth bass are biting on the southern exposed sand dunes, especially during the afternoon, and the smallmouth bass bite is on as well in the Lynn Coulee and along O'Sullivan Dam, with the hot plug being a diver with a crawdad color scheme. Walleye anglers are doing well too, catching lots of pre-spawn males under 20 inches at the mouth of the Crab Creek Channel and along Medicare Beach. Find them using a worm and crawler harness like a Max Smile Blade slow death rig, and once you've found that school, anchor up and blade bait for them for success. Find out more and book a spring fishing getaway by going to mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We've got that Sportsman's Warehouse trivia question of the week coming at you in a few minutes, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. But first, let's run through some news. From the backcountry hunters and anglers, we learned your United States Senate voted last week in favor of a budget amendment enabling the sale and transfer of federal public land. The vote passed 51-49, supported primarily by Republican senators. Backcountry hunter and anglers sharply criticized the passage of the measure that would enable the sale or transfer of federal public lands, including national forests, wilderness areas, wildlife refuges, and other places relied on by sportsmen and outdoor recreationists. Lantani, executive director of the organization, had this to say after the vote. Public lands are the fabric that binds America together, and last night's vote by the Senate sends an alarming message to sportsmen and women, along with every citizen who values our publicly owned resources. While Senate Amendment 838 was strongly opposed by some Western senators, the final tally of votes was not without surprises. Senators Risch and Crapo from Idaho voted for this measure, as did Montana Senator Steve Daines, who just last month tweeted during a speech to the Montana legislature, quote, "We must stand firm against any efforts to sell our public lands." We at Northwestern Outdoors Radio were curious about this very public flip-flop by Senator Daines, who represents a state known for residents who love to recreate on federal public lands. We reached out to him for an explanation a day before we went on the air and have not heard back from him or his staff yet. If we do, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, feel free to contact Senator Daines, Crapo, and Risch and ask them, why do you want to deny me access to our public lands? Because that is exactly what may happen here in the not-too-distant future. In Idaho, Fish and Wildlife officers are hoping the public can help them solve a mule deer poaching case in Bingham County. A mule deer doe was found on March 10th near the Bingham County Rattlesnake Transfer Station entrance off Wolverine Road. The doe's head and gut pile were left behind, along with two partially developed fetuses. It appears the pregnant doe was probably killed the night before, Monday, March 9th. The poachers did leave a clue behind. A well-worn, handmade marijuana pipe constructed of a deer antler was left at the scene. So, if you know of any marijuana smokers who may be missing a distinctive deer antler pot pipe who could be involved with this, please contact Idaho Fish and Game Officer Tom Burkhart or call Citizens Against Poaching. The number, 1-800-632-5999. Callers can remain anonymous and may be eligible for a reward of up to $300 for information leading to an arrest in this incident. Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're taking you to Montana, but not for the fishing you think we're going to talk about. I know. Every time we go to Montana, we seem to talk about trout fishing, but there's more to Montana than trout. There's walleye and there's pike here too. With us here to tell us more about it is Captain Forrest Fothrop. He is one of the owners of Walleye Hunter Outfitters out of Helena. Forrest, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Forrest, let's go ahead and talk walleye in Montana. You've got 4 reservoirs that are really good fisheries for walleye. Tell us about them.
Absolutely. We fish here on Canyon Ferry Lake, based out of Helena, Montana. And we also go to eastern Montana on Fort Peck Reservoir for pike, walleye, and smallmouth bass.
Now, there's also Holter Lake and Hauser Lake. Where are they located? And tell me about those fisheries.
We have a chain of 3 lakes right outside of Helena here. Canyon Ferry first, and then Holter and Hauser. And we kind of bounce around back and forth, whatever's fishing best. Make sure we get you on the walleyes.
So when it comes to walleye fishing at Canyon Ferry, Holter, and Hauser, is this basically a spring through summer fishery, or is it something that fishes better at some parts of the year versus others?
We pretty much get started about May 15th, and we run all the way to September 1st. We stay on the fish all summer long and make sure we get you on them.
So let's talk about Fort Peck Reservoir, eastern Montana, kind of unspoiled wilderness. You know, that's a big reservoir. Tell me about those trips.
Yeah, we mostly focus ourselves in the big dry arm out towards Rock Creek Marina, and we focus on the bigger female walleyes, one of the best places in the state to get a 10-plus pound walleye. And we also fly fish for pike and smallmouth if you get a calm day there. It's just a lot of action and a lot of big fish.
I want to talk more about the pike in a minute, but keeping with the walleye, your favorite methods of fishing for walleye, are you basically trolling bottom bouncers and like max lure smile blades behind them, or what?
Yeah, about 90% of the time we're vertical jigging, casting the shore, hitting sunken islands, dropped off main lake points. And
when you're casting towards shore, are you casting jigs?
Yep, it's all jig fishing. We use a lot of Kids Tackle, which is right in Helena, Montana. We kind of focus on vertical jigging.
So in Washington State, when we're talking vertical jigging, we're generally talking about blade baits. Is that what we're talking about here, or something? Or are we talking more like grubs?
No, we're a lot different over in Montana. We don't have too much blade bait fishing. It's all mostly Erie-style jigs. And in eastern Montana, we get to use live minnows. And over here on Canyon Ferry, Holter, and Hauser, we got to stick to worms and leeches and, gulp pattern imitation minnows. So we're kind of lucky out there at Fort Peck. Get to use a big shiner, so...
All right, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Captain Forrest Fothrop. He is one of the owners of Walleye Hunter Outfitters in Helena, Montana. He'll take you walleye fishing at Canyon Ferry Lake, Holter Lake, or Hauser Lake in central Montana, or at Fort Peck Reservoir in northeast Montana. Let's talk about pike fishing. That's something else that, when it comes to Montana, people don't really think about. You've got a huge pike mount in your booth here at the Bighorn Show. How big do the pike get in Montana?
Most of our pike average between 8 to 12 pounds out on Fort Peck Reservoir. But, after a few days, you can count on one going 18, 20 pound range.
That is a big pike. And you mentioned that you actually fish for them on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. We just kind of started that about 2 years ago. And we like to, if you can get a calm day, go in the shallows and try to sight fish for them. And we throw really large streamers, and it's an amazing take.
No doubt about that. But for those of us who are, let's just put it politely, a little uncoordinated with the fly rod, are we basically tossing 5-a-diamond spoons and daredevils and crocodiles?
Yeah, it sounds a little intimidating, throwing big streamers and stuff. But, these pike, you just got to get it within 10 feet of them, and they're going to attack it. So
there's hope for me. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. We'll get you on one.
All right. So if you want to go pike fishing with your outfit, it's Fort Peck Reservoir. If you want to go walleye fishing, it's Fort Peck and the other 3 reservoirs we also mentioned. We're starting to run short on time, but before we go, if people want to go on a walleye trip, a pike trip, what's a website we can send them to and a phone number?
It's walleyehunteroutfitters.com, and it's 406-459-5352.
Again, that's 406-459-5352. That's 406-459-5352, or just go to the website of walleyehunteroutfitters.com. That's walleyehunteroutfitters.com. Sounds like you can do a whole lot more than fish for trout in Montana if you go out with these guys. Forrest, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm Bob Loomis, and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water, I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines, though. I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra-slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig, only from Max Lure.
Nate Luther wants to take you fishing for monster sturgeon on the Snake River and Hell's Canyon. If you're looking for a fishing adventure, this one is hard to beat. Find out more by going to Nate's Facebook page at Nate Luther's Guide Service or give Nate a call at 208-503-9204. That's 208-503-9204 for Nate Luther's Guide Service.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for upcoming events and for our weekly trivia question, brought to you this Easter weekend and every weekend by Sportsman's Warehouse. Eastman's Trophy Deer Tour is wheeling its way to the Sportsman's Warehouse store in Hillsboro, Oregon, where it's going to set up from Friday, April 10th through Sunday the 12th. The tour will pull up stakes and head to the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store the following weekend, April 17th through the 19th. You've got to go see this. You'll get to check out 13 huge trophy deer mounts on display. There's going to be experts on hand to review new hunting gear for 2015 and to share some good advice, too, that might get you into your own trophy buck this fall. Again, that's the Eastman's Trophy Deer Tour coming to Sportsman's Warehouse stores in Hillsboro and East Wenatchee this month. Moving on to our trivia question. Last week's winner won a $25 gift card who knew that rainbow trout were the most popular fish stocked here in the Northwest for anglers to catch. This week, we ask you this. Salmon are finning their way up the Columbia River as we speak, and in very good numbers too. Would these big fish be spring Chinook salmon, coho salmon, or Atlantic salmon? You can send me your answer through our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio or through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. We'll announce a lucky winner, randomly picked from everyone who guesses correctly, next week on the show, and that winner's going to get a $25 gift certificate from Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. We've got another upcoming event to tell you about. This one's taking place in Wenatchee, Washington. It's the Coastal Conservation Banquet for the North Central Washington chapter, taking place April 11th at the Eagles area, North Wenatchee Avenue. With us here to tell us more about it is Peter Floor. Peter, tell us about this banquet.
Like you said, it'll be at the Eagles again this year. Very good time. All the local fishermen show up. We have all kinds of fabulous things for the live auction, silent auction, and the bucket raffles that we do.
So what are some of the prizes that you're excited about this year that are going to go in the auctions or the raffles?
Well, as always, we have a couple of very high-end coolers. We have a Yeti again this year, and we also have a K2 cooler again this year. And living on this side of the mountains and spending as much time as I do outside, there's nothing quite like a good cooler.
I agree completely. Now, Wenatchee sits on the banks of the Columbia River. There's some great salmon fishing that starts there in July. I'm guessing there's probably some guided trips that can be won.
Oh, yeah. There's pretty much all the local guides give us a trip. Some are for goose hunting, some are for salmon, some are for walleye. Usually there's a springer trip or two in there.
Sounds fantastic. Where can people pick up tickets?
Tickets are available at Hooked on Toys, Sportsman's Warehouse. They will be there until about the week before. We have to, of course, get numbers to our caterer, but you could pick them up at the door at the event if necessary.
Again, folks, that's the Coastal Conservation Association's North Central Washington Banquet, taking place the night of April 11th at the Eagles in Wenatchee. Promises to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be there. Peter's going to be there. And there'll be a whole bunch of other fun people there, too, raising money for a great organization. Peter, thanks as always.
Thank you, John.
In other upcoming events, now is the time to register for a Hunter Ed class in Central Montana. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks will be hosting a classroom session on April 14th at Highlands College in Butte and on April 13th at the middle school in Cut Bank. A full 3-day Hunter Ed class with activities in the classroom and in the field will take place in Helena at the Montana Wild Facility April 24th through the 26th. Online registration is required for these classes, and you'll want to do so soon because they do fill up. Also, students under 18 must have parental consent to attend. That's all for this week. If you get a chance, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links to find out more about our guests, and you'll also be able to catch audio from last last week's show. You can also hear us on the internet at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's the home of WRVO Radio, an internet channel dedicated to outdoors programming. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. Last but not least, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook. Our page, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're always posting stuff there that doesn't necessarily make it on the show. Spring is in bloom with bright yellow arrowleaf balsam root blooming on the green hills of the inland Northwest. So until next time, take care, God bless, happy Easter, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.